All right, y'all. Welcome back to Legally Everywhere. But we're what, y'all? We legally everywhere looking into everything. Y'all. We have to get into this. So, wow. I told you all that when I decided that we were going to discuss some elements of the Epstein files, that we would do it in a way that's a little bit more trauma informed, and that we would do it in a way that would be respectful of the survivors and all the different things that they experience, right? So I'm saying this in the best way that I know how to present the information. It's very difficult, I feel like, as a constituent of the U.S., to see that other governments are able to hold people accountable when we have not been able to. What am I talking about, y'all? Y'all, I'm talking about the fact that the former known Prince Andrews was arrested for his connection to the Epstein files, right? So not only in this time have they decided to take away that formal status that he had, right? But they have arrested him. They arrested this man on his birthday, which was this past Thursday. Thursday being his birthday. My apologies. He was arrested on his birthday. So I guess happy birthday. But he was arrested. They are currently looking through his home, his possessions, to see what they can find in connection to those files, right? I have some content that I do want you to see. I've been able to pull these direct resources from BBC. I was able to pull some of my receipts from Reuters, international spaces where I was able to pull data, right? I was following some of the content live. But I'm going to go ahead and play in the background so you can hear the audio of what I captured earlier. I do have it as an isolated piece online, but I'm going to play it in the background for you all. Okay, and this is from the BBC News.
More than 20 years. He moved out of the property about a couple of weeks or so ago up to the Sandringham estate. He moved out under the cover of darkness, and we know that he still, or we understand he still has some belongings here because he was going to come back after he moved out to come back and get some of them. But the BBC understands that the searches are currently ongoing at Royal Lodge. It's a huge property within Windsor Great Park, and just on the other side of the gates that lead to Royal Lodge, that property, we have also seen a number of uniformed police officers. We also understand that they are guarding the scene while those searches are being carried out in Royal Lodge. We also saw a police officer driving in a car through the gates as well. Those searches continuing, and as long as those police officers who we've seen who are guarding that gate, we understand those searches will continue until they have gone. Those searching the property will be looking for various things, of course, computer equipment, laptops, computers, perhaps hard copies as well, while those searches are being carried out. We know that from that statement from Thames Valley Police earlier on today, which confirmed that a man in his 60s, who we know is the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, that he had been arrested. Thames Valley Police also confirmed in that statement that searches were being carried out at addresses in Norfolk and Berkshire. Well, the searches in Berkshire are here at the Royal Lodge within the grounds of Windsor Great Park, which is not too far away from Windsor Castle.
Helena, I'm going to now take us back to the statement from the King, because we've only just heard that in the last few minutes. It's on the screen for those who want to refresh their memories, but I will just read this part of it. Let me state clearly, the King has said, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. an extraordinary statement from the King, basically telling us that this is the law and the law must take its course.
Well, exactly, and you'll cast your mind back not long ago when the King put out a previous statement saying that they were, or Buckingham Palace rather, said that the palace was standing ready to support Thames Valley Police in any investigation that they needed to be carried out. But an extraordinary development again following the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor earlier today, that statement from the King. We weren't sure, of course, whether the King would say anything, given that this is now obviously a police matter and that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is now under arrest and is in custody. But the King clearly felt like he had to put something out, that he had to make a statement about his younger brother. In that statement, let me just read you that top bit. The King says that I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. The King goes on to say, what now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue, he goes on to say, by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. And he goes on to say, the King, that they are ready to stand by and wholehearted support and cooperation if that is needed. But clearly the King can only go so far now in terms of what he does say, and we've just seen that in the statement that we've had in the last 10 minutes, that there has to be this police investigation, and clearly they won't want to say anything further. Members of the royal family have been out and about on various engagements, but you can imagine it will be a very tricky time for the royal family, given the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor.
Helena, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's cross live now and speak to Katie Nicholl, royal correspondent for Vanity Fair. And Katie, good to talk to you. As Helena said there, this is a very, very tricky time for the King. He
lived there for more than 20 years. He moved out of the property.
Okay. So you have heard the clip. What I find very interesting, right, is in this real system, right, this is the King, right? We're talking about someone who was just previously considered a prince. This is his brother. And he even said, hey, I need to allow the law to investigate this fully. And I will cooperate with that legal proceeding so that we can get information and seek justice. So, kudos with regards to that. It's something that a lot of us would like to see, and I'm glad to see that they're investigating, they're looking, and they're taking it seriously. The part that puts me at pause and concern is the comparative element, right? The comparative element is that's not what we observed here in the United States, right? And that part's disappointing. Because a brother, we're talking about relationships, right? I always put in that relationship dynamic element, right? A brother could hold his own brother accountable. People talk a lot about the conversation of loyalty. A brother was able to say, we got to hold him accountable for whatever part he played. With regard to positionality, right? He's one of the highest level officials they had, one of the longest standing officials they have, right? And they said no, position snatched, because they have concerns about how he was carrying himself, misconduct while he was in his position of authority. Said no, we're going to investigate this. They are currently at this time still investigating this man's compound, his home. Looking for things that may show connections, right? Going through his personal phone, all of that, right? laptops, whatever things he might have, they are currently looking through those items and investigating. Why is that not happening here? Why is that not happening here? And when I say here, in the United States, right? That brings pause, right? Because here we recently just saw there was some discussion about things that were happening relevant to the Epstein files in Congress, and we didn't get a lot of information back. Another country saw that their country had some connections to it and said, oh, no. I've put up previous receipts about different things like the parliament said in regards to certain things and how they were moving certain elements of their discussion. But once again, right, we have the conversation comparators, right? That's so interesting. And they actually picked this man up on his birthday. It's like 66 years old. They picked him up and said no. So he's currently in the UK police possession, right? Detention, whatever the appropriate terminology would be for that, right? He is currently with them. They're currently looking into his property to see what connections he had, what evidence I guess they have to make connections. So when people say they feel like there should be more of a response, when you're talking about people looking for accountability, for people who are in positions of power, when we're saying just accountability in general, even if you're not in a position of power, but you have done something and we're looking to see what are the ramifications, what is that response? And you know, that's what people are looking for. They're looking to see that you're actually investigating and looking into things. So I'm going to continue to follow this. I debated about if I wanted to cover an element to include a piece of like their journal news articles about how they're reporting on things, but I just wanted people to see how things are being reported in other places. So I did pull that news article clip and just noting that they showed a lot of respect for those survivors by at least blocking their images out. You're not seeing things that feel sensationalized. I don't like that. Unfortunately, when we look at a lot of the news about this, it's very sensationalized and disregards the experiences and feelings of those who survived those events. My heart goes out to those who are triggered by the fact that there's so much dialogue about about those files and all the things that are included in the files, and a lot of things that are suggested in those files and outlined in those files. There are lots of people who are being traumatized and triggered. And if you are, I really do hope that you're able to get some coping resources, able to contact therapists, life coaches, whatever you feel is most appropriate for you and your situation. Whether it's, getting some books or some resources. I really do encourage people to do that because there's a lot of heavy content, whether you're just looking through the files, whether you're being triggered by the files, whatever the case may be. Whether it's a flashback or secondary traumatization from reading some of the barbaric things that really are being written and recorded in those documents. I really do encourage people to, check in with yourself, check in with your mental health, make sure that you are okay. I'm going to cover this in the most delicate ways that I can, by more so focusing in on the documents and reportings like these. But just want to let you know that, yes, we are starting to see some level of accountability starting to be made. And ironically, we found it with the royal family holding elements of the royal family accountable, with the British government holding officials accountable, and kind of looking at some of the articles of different things that they said. Let me see if I can actually pull that up really quick for y'all. Let me see if it will let me. It does not appear to be letting me to pull it up for you guys. Let's see. So I will do another live where I actually show you some of the Reuters articles that I've been able to pull, but I'll give you the verbal right now because we on here, and why not? Y'all know how I feel about getting y'all those receipts. As you heard in that clip, the king expressed deep concern at the arrest, Rees Masosa's brother, but also the charges that are very concerning, right? Police examining misconduct in public office allegations. Former prince arrested on his 66th birthday. Information I've already provided you. And the article says King Charles' younger brother, Andrew of Windsor, was arrested on Thursday on suspicion of misconduct in public office over allegations he sent confidential government documents to Jeffrey Epstein. So he turned 66 on Thursday, was arrested and questioned by detectives from Thames Valley Police. Earlier this month, the police force said it was looking into allegations that he had passed documents to the late convicted sex offender while working as a trade envoy. Okay, the rest of the senior royal, eighth in line to the throne, is unprecedented in modern times, right? We're looking at something that's altogether like, whoa. This is the direct quote. I have learned with the deepest concern that the news about Andrew and suspicion of misconduct in public office. So this is from King Charles, said in a statement. The law must take its course. So through Buckingham Palace, so basically, although Buckingham Palace was not informed in advance about the arrest, yikes, Charles said the authorities had the family's full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me say clearly, the law must take its course. The monarch, who had no public comment when he visited a fashion show in London on Thursday, said in his statement, right? So meanwhile, my family and I will continue our duty and service to you all. So he's letting people know, like, you know, you can trust us to do what we're supposed to do. And we're going to let the authorities investigate that. And you know, in general, historically, how they kind of are, you know, they kind of keep things kind of tight. They made sure they put out a statement, which I very much like could kind of appreciate the fact they said, hey, no, we need to get in front of this. This thing happened and it needs to be investigated. So at that point, his office did not respond to a request for comments, and he has not spoken publicly since the release of more than 3 million pages of the documents by the U.S. government relating to Epstein, who was convicted of soliciting things from minor in 2008. Right? And some of these go into more specific details, which I said I would not put on the site just in case people are triggered by those things. But do feel free to look into Reuters for a little bit more from what I just read to you all. This particular article was titled King Charles' brother Andrew arrested over misconduct relating to Epstein, February 19th at 9:51 a.m. This was recently updated 34 minutes ago. So sometimes some of the language updates and change a little bit, but the main content is the same. Okay, so this was written by Michael and Sam. So if you go and look it up, this is what it should look like, you all. Okay. So as I told you, I will not keep you long. This is literally everywhere where we're looking into everything. And I have a couple more things. I'm going to just go ahead and go live to present to you all. But I just want to make sure that we touched on that because this is unprecedented. And this is something that is very unique. This is not something we've ever seen the royal family experience. And we've also never seen them take this level of this posture when it came to accountability. So I think we are seeing something that is very unique, and I'm very interested in following along to see what happens. Bartavius said hi. You want to say hi, Bartavius? Say hi. Okay, don't jump off. Sit. This is Adrian from Legally Everywhere, where we're looking into what we're looking into everything. Y'all had a special guest appearance, Bartavius. But know that we're going to continue to follow this, and we're going to try to follow it in a way that will not re-traumatize people. I just want to get the bulk of the information that we need and not sensationalized elements, I think, are like clickbait type of things. We don't want to do that. I just want you to get the information and know that we are tracking it. I'm always curious about governance. How are things going to move? How are people going to handle accountability, regulatory elements? How does this map and track to other things? I'm always curious, and I'm always trying to give you those answers as I find them. So Legally Everywhere, where we're looking into what? Everything. I'm signing off. I'm see you in the next video. But if you like this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe. I'm always putting up content relevant to what? Governance, mapping, civic literacy, so that people feel informed and are able to make decisions that best impact them and their community in an informed way. So once again, thank you for visiting, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you next time.